Hello again.
Hello.
Well, almost immediately after we wrapped our last conversation, I had this thing just sort of bothering me, which was, you had talked about your mom and you talked about the women in your life and about the conversations we had while you were working through your dissertation. As I'm learning and negotiating this new medium of recording in a podcast, I realized that I had held back, even though I know that it's not live, it's being recorded. And if you came back and said, that's deeper than I want to go, we absolutely could have done it.
Mhm.
And yet I found myself, because of that, not asking a question I really wanted to hear more about. And so I appreciate your taking some time now to revisit that. The conversation that I wanted to revisit was the one about trying to get your defense together so you could meet a, let's be honest, arbitrary deadline. An arbitrary deadline imposed by administrative forces that had to do with being able to walk at graduation on campus.
Yes.
And can you kind of recount where you sort of were personally as we were kind of in that moment and that conversation?
So this was in spring 2023. Graduation was set for June of that year. Everything had been trucking along and it was seemingly working out beautifully because my aunt, my mother's younger sister, Felicia, was going to be here from Zambia and she was going to be spending about 5 weeks here visiting with me. And it was just going to be perfect because the timing of her visit would be the graduation in Southern California. And so I was like, okay, make sure everything is done so that I am marked off and ready to walk for that ceremony because how cool would it be that my aunt who would have traveled all this way. And my aunt, who, by the way, I should say, she is part of the reason that I went to school in the first place. When I was 5 years old, she had offered to take me for the weekend. My mom, just to give my mom a little bit of break from, very rambunctious little me. I had gotten to go to her campus in the Copper Belt of Zambia. I think she was at I want to say it's the University of the Copper Belt or the University of Zambia, the Copper Belt. But so she was a student and she and her roommate were just gracious enough to have this 5-year-old kid stay in their dorm. It was very chill campus. So I got to go around, meet her friends, see like the buildings where she learned. And she had said, you'll be here one day. Hearing that as a kid, it just becomes like a given. Like, oh yeah, this thing is going to happen for me. Higher education is a given for me. And so that's why it was really important for her to be there to see my graduation at the tutorial level. And then on the other hand, because I'd lost my mom when I was 15, my aunt had been both my mom's youngest sister and her oldest sister were there in the room with her when she had passed away. I was, traveling back to be there, but I had missed it. So it's kind of like a continuation, if you will, because they had been there with her. And my mom also, she was incredible. She had always told me since I was a young girl that, anything I wanted to do, I could do. And when I was 9, she had suggested that I leave Zambia and come and join my dad in the US because he had just finished up at McGill and was settling here with a stepmom and the rest of the family. And so I cannot imagine doing that right now with my child. I can't. I mean, I would do anything for him, but I knew it was hard. But now as a mom, I'm like, oh, that was a really, really hard thing that she did. A very loving thing. But when she passed when I was 15, even on a Zambian secretary salary, she had saved enough and made it so that I could go to college. Like when we were talking the last time and I was pointing to my diploma that's on my wall, that's my bachelor's one. My bachelor, for me, it's more than just, it's more than just what I accomplished there. It's the fact that would have not been possible had my mom not planned it, and my mom, even in her death, ensured that I was able to follow my dream. And so, again, all these things are kind of just like riding in my mind. I'm thinking my aunt is like almost like my mom being there to see this moment, to see the moment that she had created. The other part, too, is when I was a kid, I used to tell my mom I wanted to be a doctor. I met a medical doctor. Plans changed, obviously, but now I wanted her sister to see the moment that I became doctor. With that, there was some stuff happening with my assignments, some things that I needed to get turned in, and like half the time with like this data, and you kind of like need to just be, yeah, I needed to get like approval basically to be able to participate, or at least like that's how it was written, that you needed to be at a certain stage within your defense or towards your defense to be able to participate. And then it turned out that, oh no, something came up and it was not looking good. And I remember talking to you, actually feeling like, goodness, I'm letting my aunt down. I'm letting my mom down. This would be such a big moment. It really needs to happen, because it was more so, it wasn't just about getting hooded or getting to walk. It was, I wanted to celebrate the people who had made it possible for me to be there anyway. And I wanted at least one of them, my mom's younger sister, to see that happen. And this was under threat. So yeah, I remember talking to you, and I had been driving myself crazy trying to work really hard to like things done as quickly as possible. And I was exhausted. And then hearing that this might not happen, I think you had said, go anyway. You were like, just go. Cause I was reading it just exactly as it was. It's like, this needs to happen. Otherwise, you had said that. And I had just like dug myself into this whole, like, this isn't going to happen and you're going to disappoint people. I'd also spoken to my aunt, and she's like, oh my goodness, no, it's totally fine. Don't worry about it. I'd already booked the tickets. And so I was like, well, I guess we could just make it a vacation. But it ended up working out well anyway. Ended up walking. I defended shortly thereafter because everything was like pretty much set to go. It was so hard. Like when you're like, you really want something and then something's standing in the way, you can't even think clearly. And just being able to talk to you about that. And I think you had said, let's breathe. Yeah.
I think those were, in fact, exactly the first words out of my mouth. Is I remember there had been all this back and forth over email because you were like, "Okay, here's my defense date," and it was like, "You're not quite at that point." The kindest thing, and I mean, we both know. Big shout out to Dr. Leahy, best advisor
Yes.
you could have. Um,
Yes.
your advisors, the kindest thing that they can do for you,
Mm-hmm.
not let you go to defend until you're ready. Like, they know
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna pass. Now, ready doesn't mean 100% of the way there. They know that it's gonna have the right outcome for you. It's so hard to tell someone, "We need to let this develop a little further. It needs to cook some more."
Yeah.
Both you and I are moms. There was a stage relatively late in the gestation of our children where it was like, "You know what? We're done cooking."
Yeah.
And the dissertation was similar to that. It was like, I'm done cooking. This needs to be here now. Like,
Mm-hmm.
It's not its time yet."
Yes.
I remember get back and forth by emails not working. So we scheduled a call. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember just you were exhausted because you
Yeah.
had poured. I mean, not only are you pouring yourself into your work in terms of your research, you're working and you're a mom and,
Mm-hmm.
and, and. And it was just like, you're right. I think the first thing I said was, let's take a very deep breath and
Mm-hmm.
let's think about what here is an artificial binary.
Right.
What here are artificial boundaries that we're trying to cross that we won't be able to because they're
Mm-hmm.
not that real. What happens if you turn it into a vacation? What happens if you go? Do a
Mm-hmm.
photo shoot, have a really great meal,
Mm-hmm.
celebrate your mom, celebrate your accomplishment because it is an accomplishment. Even when there's still more to do, there will always be more to do.
Yes.
Like, there will always be more to do. So celebrate where you are and what you've accomplished. Everything. And like I said, everything and everyone you carried. You carried your son over that goal line. You carried your mom. You carried
Mm-hmm.
you carried your ancestors. You carried yourself. I mean, it
Mm-hmm.
was incredible. When I think back to that, I think about we can get really fixated around, well, this moment, and we build
Yeah.
things up. And I think one of the other things I said to you was that I wonder if this moment is outsize. Like, I wonder if somehow this has taken on more than what it is. And so
Right.
it's sort of become its own planet. Like, it's got its own gravitational pull right now.
Mm-hmm.
But does it
Mm-hmm.
really? Like, do we really need to be in this particular gravitational pull? Do we have another option? And the thing is, we always have other options. What
Right.
else could we do? And when we thought about, well, what else could we do? All of a sudden, like, it took the pressure off of you too. Like, it
Right.
wasn't like, "I have to finish this by this point and, I just get it done."
Mhm.
And I can celebrate, and I can
Mhm.
hold this big space for the people who've held me, and I can do it all in a way that they would want me to, which is not hurting myself,
Right.
not exhausting myself, like, not running myself ragged. It's like, there are so many people who need and love you.
Mhm.
We don't wanna see you in a state that's less than your best self because you
Mhm.
somehow think you owe it to some others of us. It's like, you
Right.
don't owe us anything. Like, you are more than enough. You're incredible. You've done you've done these amazing things that your mother saw already. Like,
Yeah.
you were already a doctor for your mom. You were
Mhm.
already there. It was merely a question of checking a few more boxes, and you
Right.
did. And that was such an incredible moment for me to be there with you, to be able to be your friend in that moment. Like, be not
Yeah.
yes, be your committee member, but, like, to be your friend and say, "Tondi, you are enough.
Yes.
You are not letting anyone down. In
Mhm.
fact, you are fulfilling the vision your mom had for you and that she
Yeah.
worked to make possible for you. Like, you're doing it. And whether this one particular administrative deadline is met or not, it takes nothing from you
Mhm.
or everything that built you to that moment. It's something that I take with me because I do this to
Yeah.
myself all the time.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Like, I am so good at the artificial deadline. I am really,
Mhm.
really good at the artificial binary because it's easier to make decisions. Like, we're both
Mhm.
psychologists, we know this. It's easier to make decisions when you have fewer choices. And when you artificially limit your choices, it gets even easier to make the decision and
Mhm.
to not make as good decisions.
Right. Mhm.
And yeah, I do it to myself. Like, I'm going to let everyone down. I am insufficient. I'm not doing everything I'm supposed to do because I'm
Mhm.
imperfect, but I can't be because, I have to be perfect all the time, which
Right.
is
Yeah.
nothing. As I was speaking to you, I was speaking to me,
Yeah.
and you've spoken that to me too.
Yeah.
So it is the reciprocating gift. Um, but I
Yeah.
really appreciate your like hopping back on with me and talking that out
Mm.
because it also just gives me a chance again to say how incredibly proud everyone is
Mhm.
of you. I am. I know your mother is, your aunt, like, your family, your son. And
Yeah.
someday, when he is old enough to understand the story of
Yeah.
what his mother did, I mean,
Yeah.
I know he's proud of you now. I just can't even imagine that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I have to send you this photo of him at the graduation. I was taking photos with my siblings, and he of course was like he was 3 at the time. And so he's like marching around the place, but he walks by and he's like he looks up at me and somebody had captured that moment. And it's one of my favorite pictures. No, people aren't looking where they're supposed to. It's kind of chaotic, but it was like, I mean, to see him looking at me like that. And this is a kid who, I kid you not, I carried him on my back when I used to sometimes like read, some really dry journal articles to him, but, with a little bit of oomph to make them interesting and just so that I could both be doing what I needed to be doing and also engaging with him. But yeah, and a good chunk of my dissertation was written laptop on the kitchen counter, him strapped to my back or right here on the side, traditional style. We call it a papu in Zambia. And he had been such a part of everything.
So I guess on that note, congratulations, Dr. Mommy. Thank you so much for this, Tondi. And thank you
Oh,
for you.
oh gosh. Thank you, Liz, for everything, truly.